Welcome to the BEET Pain Podcast, where we learn what actually works for pain relief, staying healthy, and navigating the medical world. I'm your host, Brandon Cope. My guest on the show today is the host of the Dirobi Health Podcast. He's also the creator of the Dirobi Supplements. We end up talking a lot about one of his supplements called Mimi's Miracle Turmeric. If you want to buy that turmeric, we've got links to that in the description below, and you can get a 10% off discount if you type in Brandon10. Please enjoy my conversation with Dave Sherwin. Well, awesome. Hey, today I am super excited. I've got Dave Sherwin on the show, and this is going to be my first episode, my first guest of 2021. So, hey, Dave, thanks so much for being on the show with me. I appreciate it.
Man, you just put a level of pressure on me right there. First guest of 2021. Yeah. I better be good.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? After all the 2020 that's gone on, the expectations are low, especially for me, since I basically went MIA in 2020 with podcasting. So I think people are just happy that I'm still alive. They're like, where did that guy go? So, seeing you and having you on the show is a welcome sight.
And it actually had a really great vibe to it because 2020 sucked so bad that doing anything in 2021 sounds better, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you just do something average in 2021, it's at least better than 2020. So it's like, great.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Well, hey, today I know that you want to talk about your 7 principles with health. And before we get into that, I think you've got some fun stuff with turmeric, and I want to hear a little bit about just your background and how you got into health. Do you want to start telling me just a little bit about your turmeric product that you got, and also where people can get a hold of you, websites, and your own podcast, and some contact info?
Yeah, great. Where do you want me to start? There was a lot there. Do you want me to start with my
tell me
health
with the contact
story
info. Where can people find you? Yeah.
My website is dirobi.com, dirobi.com. And there's actually quite a few freebies on that site. So we've gone out of our way to create lots of backup material for everything we teach on our own podcasts and podcasts I'm on. So much of what I talk about today, if you like what you hear, you can go to dirobi.com and there's a resources page. We have a really nice PDF you can print and put on the fridge. Of these 7 principles I'm about to talk about, which if you just live them every day, you could have remarkable improvement in your health. But yeah, dirobi.com. And I have the Dirobi Health Show, which I need to get you on. I'd love to hear your story too. So we need to do a reciprocal podcast gig here. But that's been a lot of fun. Got about 140 episodes and had a lot of really fantastic guests. So that's my home base, my podcast home base, and my supplement home base.
And then tell me that turmeric that you've got going on. Tell people a little bit about that, because, specifically the work that I usually do myself, and a lot of what happens on this show is talking to people about chronic pain, about pain relief. And you were telling me you got something specifically for pain issues.
Yeah, so a little backstory. We're into what we call high-end functional supplements. And that means we don't have a very broad product line. Everything we do has to be something that we have a lot of confidence in. We're not a vitamin shop. We don't have like 1,000 items. We have very, very few. So we bring them to market very, very slowly. They often take 2 to 3 years to come up with. And the turmeric product, everyone started selling turmeric, and there's all this buzz about it and all kinds of hype. And turmeric is a spice. You can just eat it. But very respected professionals started telling us very early on that you'd have to eat, a lot of the spice to get the benefits of the curcuminoids. The curcuminoids are the magical anti-inflammatory properties of turmeric. Well, a few years ago, we were at the Las Vegas Supplement Show. It's the biggest show in the United States. And I typically go every year, every other year, depending on if we're formulating anything. Well, we ran into this guy, a PhD nutritionist who'd worked actually out of getting his PhD. He'd gone to Kirkland, the Kirkland brand of supplements.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he worked there for a while, and then he'd gone off and was working for another company and had done all this research on pain management. With curcuminoids, the active ingredient in turmeric. And he developed a product that he was pretty excited about, but they did a rat study, first of all, and it was incredibly successful. And so the rats had highly measurable uptake of the curcuminoid compared to the leading brand. So curcuminoids or anti-inflammatory and pain relieving, right? Because inflammation is often what is causing the pain in the joints.
Right.
And curcuminoids are easy to measure in the blood. I can take and give you turmeric, and 3 hours later draw blood and see exactly how much curcuminoid
Wow.
level has. You have curcuminoids in your blood right now. It's a matter of how many you have. So it's a very easy thing to test. So they gave it to the rats, and they drew samples and found out the rats had a massive uptake of the curcuminoids. Well, then what they did is a 60-day human clinical with 120 patients with osteoarthritis in their knees, which is really where the rubber hits the road, right? So you got a control group that is taking a placebo, and you've got the 60 people taking the turmeric supplement. And believe it or not, after 60 days, they had a 95% reduction in pain.
Wow, that's huge.
It's astonishing. It's a really incredible.
Do you know
and that's
how
a
much
large scale study.
Do you know how much turmeric they were taking?
They're taking the clinical dose, which is what we have in our bottle now. It's just so one in the morning, one in the evening. Curcuminoids need to be in your blood 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So you try to take them on roughly 12-hour increments. So you take one in the morning, one in the evening, and to keep it in your blood at all times. And they were taking one a day. Sorry, two a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. So 60 a month. And we bumped into him. We heard the story. He gave us 10 or 12 bottles to take home and try. I started trying them. And from that, we formulated Mimi's Miracle Turmeric. And it's one of our best products. I take it every day. We have all kinds of really great anecdotal responses from this. It's not just the clinical studies, but some interesting things. For example, we've had influencers on YouTube, like endurance racers, say that they experiment with taking 3 or 4 after a marathon. And they feel like their recovery is much improved. We have people that take an extra one after a hard workout, or people that just take extra when they're just feeling joint pain when it acts up. They take extra and have these noticeable results quite quickly. It wasn't designed that way necessarily. It was designed as a long-term natural pain management tool.
Right.
But those have been interesting bits of feedback for us to get back, that it's also really great as a recovery product and after hard workouts, etc.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about turmeric being anti-inflammatory and you should take it. And sometimes I'll do different turmeric supplements. I've never dove real deep into the research of it. What was the word that you said, the anti-inflammatory molecule that's in your blood? It was
curcuminoids.
Like curcuminoids? Say
yes.
it again for me.
Curcuminoids.
Curcuminoids. That's kind of a funny word, but I'm going to have to look that up and do some more research into that. That is so interesting.
One of the fascinating things about it, and this is why turmeric supplements are so interesting, is that our stomach has sensory enzymes. And the sensory enzymes are designed to keep some stuff out before it ever goes through the process of digestion. There's some stuff that just gets basically rejected in the beginning of the process. A lot of people don't understand that, but it just passes through basically essentially undigested.
Right.
Curcuminoids are one of those. It's a fascinating scientific principle because the body should recognize them as healthy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. This is what the researcher I'm talking about discovered was the secret. And have you heard of a micelle? Do you know what a micelle is?
A micelle? Maybe. That kind of sounds familiar, but explain it to me.
It's spelled M-Y-C-E-L-L-E. I believe it's a French word.
Yeah, I've seen that spelling before. Yeah.
And all he did is he took the curcuminoids and put them in a micelle. Formulate them with a micelle. The micelle tricks the sensory enzymes. So it's what makes the curcuminoids recognizable to the sensory enzymes. They enter into the stomach and now they get distributed to the blood. That was the magic right there. So
that is so clever.
That's why if you just eat a bunch of turmeric, don't get me wrong, turmeric's a very healthy spice.
Right.
It's just that you'll get very little of this benefit. I still put it on lots of stuff. I still like the curcuminoid, the turmeric spice. And I believe like all healthy herbs and spices, it's well worth adding it to a lot of your food. But if you've got arthritis, if you've got constant chronic joint pain,
Mm-hmm.
you're just not going to be able to get the benefits without major doses. This would be taking like, the spice container you have, this would be like taking the whole thing daily
Oh,
to get
wow.
that many curcuminoids,
Right.
which you
Right.
don't want to do.
Yeah.
You don't put that much
Yeah.
on a salad. It's going to be awful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be my normal type of cooking. I'm not really a good cook. So yeah, I would probably fall for that. Okay. Yeah. So if people get the type of enzyme or it can unlock more efficiently, then they can get the full effectiveness of the turmeric coming through their body. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting. Well, I'm definitely interested in people, I'm going to have a link to that in the description. People go check that out. Tell me how that feels in your body. I'm so interested now to dive into more turmeric stuff with you. So thanks for unlocking
We'll hook them up. We need to give them a discount code. If you're going to send people there to buy that, let's give them a discount code. Maybe we'll create Brandon or whatever word you want to use.
We'll find it. Well, it'll be in the description. We'll find it, folks. We'll
make
hook you
that
up.
link for anyone listening.
Yeah, we're going to make it happen for you. Don't worry. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for explaining all the fun turmeric stuff for me. And then that's so interesting hearing how you're, going to these big supplement conventions and you're meeting some really cool people, but you're doing a lot of stuff with supplements in general, right? Give us a little background to all the different supplement work you're doing.
Well, I said we don't try to be a vitamin shop, so I'm not into a large amount of supplements. But what I try to do for myself is the same thing I recommend for other people, which is to follow a very basic and simple health strategy, right? And so for me, the number one aspect of supplements is to supplement what is hard to get through diet. Ideally, we start with our diet, of course. We're going to talk about that a lot here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Dietary and lifestyle things that we should all be doing. Because if you start with supplements, it's like spray painting a rusty old car. Like if your body is a rusty old car,
right,
you don't start by spray painting it. You got to do some deep work to restore an old car, if we could use that analogy.
Yeah, no, it works.
Yeah, and so ideally, we are eating well, we have a fitness regimen, and supplements, number one, are to fill in deficiencies. So, for example, one of the things I do every year is I do a nutritional blood panel. So I'm really big on getting my physical. I'm kind of a nerd. I've got 15 years of physicals in a binder. I have a health binder. I'm old school. I print it out. I go over it with my doctor. I drive my doctor now. But actually, I will say this. I've had 3 doctors in the last 15 years. They love it. They're like, nobody does this.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants to know that they don't have cancer and they're gone.
That's funny,
and they're like, we love going over these labs with you because I want to know everything. I want to know what does my hemoglobin level mean? What does this mean? And as a guy, I'm very interested in how high my testosterone is and blood sugar level and all of these things. And blood sugar, of course, not just being a guy, but for men and women both, we get all kinds of phenomenal information out of our free yearly physical, right? So it's amazing to me people don't take advantage of that. Then on top, and by the way, I've found, even though I consider myself a fairly fit person, and I take put a lot of energy into my own personal fitness program, I often learn a lot from that physical. For example, 2 years ago, they told me I was dehydrated.
Wow.
I was like, no, I drink a ton of water. I can't be dehydrated.
Yeah.
But I was. I mean, science is science, right? And I was, and so in my head, I thought I was drinking plenty of water, and I wasn't. And I needed that little gut check at the time. And I was able to think through, well, maybe I think I'm drinking a lot of water and I'm not, because they just measured they just took a blood sample.
Right.
And that's where I'm at. Sodium is another one. I'm almost constantly low on sodium. Unless I take a teaspoon of sodium every day, I'll be deficient. I've learned that from testing.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I'm almost always low in sodium. It's really interesting, but continue.
One of the things that happens to people that eat a healthy diet, by the way.
Yeah.
When you eat an unhealthy diet, you typically have plenty of sodium.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting paradox. So on top of that, I get a yearly nutritional blood panel, which I have to pay for, right? They used to be $400 or $500. This used to be quite expensive. My last one that I just got, actually, I got the results last week, was $120. To me, that's a really great investment in yourself and your own personal health. To everyone listening, it's so worth it. You'll have epiphanies, you'll learn things, and the main thing you'll learn is, to me, what's most important. And after ruling out what I said earlier, it's great to find out if you've got something wrong going on, because sometimes you can feel okay, but something may be going wrong, and it's great to catch that. So this yearly check-in, I think, is so valuable. But once you've ruled out that you don't have any major problem, the next thing is, well, what am I deficient in?
Right.
And then you can fill those deficiencies. And so to me, that's one of the core elements of supplements. Is I have found that no matter how well I try, and how many vegetables I eat, and how many green smoothies I have, and how clean I keep my diet, without supplementation, I'm going to be low on vitamin D. I'm going to be low on zinc. I'm going to be low on chromium. I'm going to be low on calcium. I'm going to be low on potassium, selenium. I know the list, right? And so that's the number one point of supplements. From there, if your budget allows, and if you're an athlete or you're doing something that you just want to really improve your life, we can go from what I would call those core supplements, the ones that are filling in the deficiencies, to the functional supplements. Turmeric is a good example. I'm 54 years old. I've been active all my life. I've actually done plenty of damage to my body, many broken bones. I have a chronic pain in some of my joints. I have a chronic back problem and a chronic knee problem from some abuse and moving incorrectly for much of my life, right? So the turmeric supplement that I told you about earlier, I take every single day. So that's not a core supplement. That's actually a clinical supplement. That's one that is serving a purpose. It's not a deficiency. I don't have a technical deficiency of curcuminoids. You see what I'm saying? But I don't want to live with pain.
Right.
You see? So that's where we get into the world of functional supplements. You may not be deficient, but they help. Caffeine is actually an interesting example. About a third of the population thrives on caffeine. You give them a shot of caffeine before a 5K, they're going to be a minute faster. And there's a lot of studies on this. Some people thrive on caffeine, some people don't, and some people should never take it. Typically, those people know who they are from experimentation, right?
Oh yeah, I am definitely a low caffeine person. Oh yeah.
I'm the opposite.
Oh yeah.
If I take a pre-workout before I exercise, I feel like Superman. It wakes me right up. It wakes up my system. I feel terrific. I get a better workout. Do I need caffeine? No. Should I have too much? No. I try to, not have too much. But caffeine to me, again, not for everyone, but for the right body type, for the person that responds well to it, can be a helpful supplement if you're not abusing it, like, taking multiple energy drinks every day or taking them late into the night and all the negative ways people use it. And so caffeine is in quite a few products. Things like creatine. Creatine is very well researched, from everyone from athletes to powerlifters to sedentary people who are long-term hospital patients. And we just know from the science that when you supplement with creatine, you have increased muscle mass, or you retain muscle better, as in the case of the patients in the hospital. So I don't have any deficiency of creatine, yet I know if I supplement with creatine, which I currently am, I don't always, by the way, I just do every now and then, especially if I'm on a building cycle or trying to gain muscle. So I'll do it a few times a year by myself. It's inexpensive, maybe $15 for the container, about this big, you know what I mean? And I'll kind of use that and work hard for that time if I'm in a building mode. And it helps. So hopefully that makes sense. We got the core supplements that are designed to fill deficiencies, and they're going to help keep us healthier, longer, prevent potential problems in the future. Because if we live long enough, for example, you can go a long time with a calcium deficiency and not know it, because your body will just pull the calcium from your bones.
Mm,
You don't know there's a problem till the doctor tells you have osteoarthritis,
right.
you see? And so to me, those are core. You got to start with those. Then you have performance supplements, pain management supplements, and all these other, types.
Right.
So
I
start
appreciate
with the,
what your encouragement for people to get blood work done and to be nerds or good stewards, you could say, about their own body, because a lot of people think of going to the doctor as I'm gonna go to the doctor and he's gonna show me if I have any red flags in my body. Right? There's cancer. Oh, huge red flag. Turn on the alarm system. But you also want to look for a lot of those yellow flags. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of just those warning signs of something that could potentially become bad. And a lot of that is in some small details that maybe shifts a little bit out of the traditional medicine and a little bit more into something different, a little bit more alternative for a lot of those yellow flags that people have. And just looking at some of those nutritional deficiencies, looking at, how can I be managing chronic pain, doing clinical supplements, what's the functions in my body or my life that I'm losing or I need to be enhancing in some way. Those can be a lot of those yellow flags that wear you down. So I think that that's a really, really important takeaway and a great way to look at going to the doctor and taking supplements. I appreciate your simple way of breaking things down like that.
cool. Yeah, I highly recommend it. I think many people have, like you said, a negative connotation. They have a negative mindset about it. And I would just encourage them to change their thinking and think of their body as this miraculous personal science experiment.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you have that attitude of my body is a miracle, it's a
Mm-hmm.
miracle right now that I can see with my eyeballs, I can see you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that I can move my hands however I want. I can do all these things that really are, they are miraculous. The way the body heals itself. I can get a cut on my arm today, and 2 days from now, it can be gone.
Right.
I think we sometimes take our body for granted, but if we could just remember and live in a state of enjoying this miracle that we have and keeping it as good as possible for as long as possible, that our concept of going to the doctor could change, and we could change our mindset to be more proactive and less, and then we do become less afraid of those negative things we might be fearful of, because if we're taking care of ourselves all year, we're not so worried that he's going to find something scary, because
Right.
we're taking care of ourselves.
Right. Could not agree with you more. You're absolutely right on that. Well, so that's a great way to think about supplements. Take me through those 7 principles you have here, and maybe we've already kind of covered a little bit of it, but I want to hear what
Yeah.
those 7 principles are for people to understand health a lot better.
Okay, so these are the 7 principles of what I call the undiet.
Okay.
And we
The
call it the
undiet.
undiet because the concept of a diet is to do something drastically different for a short period of time with the goal of losing weight. And don't get me wrong, that can be a very good thing to do every now and then. So for those of you that do that and it works, and every spring maybe you lose the 10 pounds you put on over the winter,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. But if you're looking for a long-term lifestyle, this is a good one for those people that want to keep things simple, that they don't want to do one of the named diets where you have to like measure how many calories you eat, or you
Yeah.
just don't want to feel like you're an extreme person. So that's what this is designed for. It's designed for people who want to keep it simple. Also, I think it's wonderful for families, for moms and dads, that, because this is the other challenge of a diet. Mom and dad do it,
Yeah.
and the children have Fruit Loops for breakfast and then head out the door,
Yep.
right?
Mm.
And so that's the other thing I like, is when mom and dad can eat this way and they can have their whole family eat this way. This is the way you can buy your groceries. So number 1 is stop drinking calories. Now there's some exceptions. It's not a rule. And there's some healthy things you can drink. But for the most part, what we do in the United States anyway, is we drink sodas and energy drinks
Yeah.
and coffee and tea and alcohol and
Mm-hmm.
fruit juices.
Mm.
And all of those are giving us some negatives that are hurting our health, and in different ways. And some people think, well, fruit drinks, I mean, fruit juice, orange juice, that's healthy.
Mm.
Well, the challenge that we have in our society, we're an affluent society where food is inexpensive and easy to get, and it's available 24/7. And one of the biggest problems we have is we just eat too much. And the way we put on weight is typically 2 pounds per year. From age 20 to 40, the average person has gained about 40 pounds,
Interesting.
and they do it 2 pounds a year. They typically do it in the winter as well, which is interesting.
Hmm.
Typically, we tend to gain weight in the winter and then we lose it in the summer.
Yeah.
But we're doing that cycle at about 2 pounds weight gain on average per year.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of research on this. It's not
Yeah.
cut and dried for everyone, of course. There's some people who struggle with childhood obesity. There's all
Sure.
types of different situations. But for the average person of, say, average health who reached 20 at an ideal body weight,
Mm-hmm.
very, very common to gain the weight very slowly to about the age of 40. And that's when we start dieting and doing all this stuff. Well, you
Right.
can reverse that cycle usually if you simply stop drinking calories and make water your best friend.
Yeah. I remember when it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, just decided I'm not going to ever drink soda again. And, it was very noticeable just cutting out that one thing, just cutting out soda, very, very noticeable in terms of feeling, less pain in my body, feeling more energy, better cognitive function with my mind, thinking. Just that one part was really, really noticeable. So that's very true. Now, in terms of water, do you feel like there's anything that you would say with different types of water? Like I know there's, mineral waters or sparkling waters, or, is it all kind of the same, or should people be picky about their water too?
I suggest they do not be picky about their water,
Okay.
with this little caveat, and that is, there are people who get so caught up. I mean, there's people who won't drink anything but distilled water in this country. And
Right.
they really do think that that's what they really have got to do.
Oh yeah.
Well, drink the best quality water you have access to. But you know what? To take, in this day and age, the water quality, with the exception if you live in Flint, right,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
like poisoned you,
Yeah.
that is an exception to the rule. We live in a first world country where you can put a stupid glass under a faucet
Mm-hmm.
and fill it up and drink the water.
Mm.
Now, I drink filtered water. I do want to get the chlorine out of it. So
Mm-hmm.
great. If you can do, and it can be as simple as the filter in your fridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, yes, drink the best quality water that you can drink, but don't stress over it.
Mm.
Because we have people that go to extremes, right?
Yeah.
Everything I'm talking about is kind of the middle way. I love the middle way. Right now, I think in our country, we have major problems because we have extremists, extremists way out on the left and extremists way out on the right.
Yeah.
And between those two groups, they're causing the rest of us a lot of grief, right? And that's just one quick example that I think we can all wrap our head around, that when people go to extremes, there can be all kinds of problems that come from being an extreme thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And health is no different. We have a
Yeah.
lot of extreme thinkers in health.
Yeah.
You don't, and I'm here to tell you, you do not have to eat only from your organic hippie garden to be healthy. You don't have to eat just distilled water. So I think it's a wonderful question. Drink the best you can, but be reasonable. If you're at your friend's house and you haven't had a drink in 2 hours, it's time to go to ask for a glass and go to their tap and have a drink. Right?
Yeah.
So we want to keep it simple.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying don't drink calories. That's number one, right?
That's number one.
Hearing that right? Okay.
Yes, with reasonable exceptions. There's some low calorie or 0 calorie drinks. You mentioned a big one, soda, cutting out soda, alcohol, minimize alcohol the best that you can. There are some great low calorie, healthy things you can add to water. One of my favorites is to take essential oils, lemon, grapefruit, and orange essential oils are delicious. Just 2 or 3 drops in a water bottle.
Yeah.
Adds really nice flavor.
Yeah.
So, and no calories. So there's things you can do to make it less boring, but make water your best friend as much as possible. That's the bottom line.
Okay. That's That's principle number one.
That's number one.
What's on number two?
Number two, eat all your food slowly and mindfully.
Oh, don't tell me that one. That one's hard. All right, this one's for me.
This is an interesting one because it's really hard for some people, and others are naturally slow eaters. So for some, they're like, hey, what's your problem? Eating slow is easy.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those, you'll appreciate this. What you do when you eat fast, let me back up. According to Precision Nutrition, which is where I got my health certification, they taught us as coaches that what you eat and how you eat, when you eat and how you eat it is more important than what you eat.
Interesting. Oh.
I did not believe that. That was hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
But the reason why is because our stomach is not like a hole at the bottom of our throat. It's a series of folds. And there's a lot of complex chemical reactions going on there, including the enzymes, like the sensory enzymes I talked about earlier. There's enzymes in the mouth that work into the food, that prepare the food for digestion. If we chew it all the way to the consistency of applesauce, we've worked the enzymes in really well. We then swallow, and the stomach starts accepting that food and being able to work it through the folds of the stomach in a way that it can digest and get the most. Because it's not about what you take in, it's about what you absorb. Right?
Yeah.
And if you eat really, really fast, you're not getting all the enzymes into the food from your mouth. Your stomach is receiving the food too quickly to absorb it properly. The signals of the hormones from the stomach that go to the brain to tell you that you're full are a little slow. By the time they trigger that, hey, you need to stop eating, it's too late. You've already just packed the stomach with so much food. And so now, this is why we feel bloating and gas and discomfort after eating. We should never feel that way. If you eat slowly and mindfully, your stomach can handle the food. The hormones can signal to the brain to stop eating at the right time. Studies have shown that people will eat as much as 20% less food when they eat slowly and mindfully. Again, one of the problems we have in our society. So we eat less calories, less weight gain, better comfort in our digestion, better absorption of all the nutrients and the minerals, and phytochemicals, zoochemicals, all of that gets into the blood where it needs to be. So how we eat is critical.
You know, that makes me think about two of my favorite things to eat, which is soup and salad. I just, all my life, I've loved soup and salad. But one thing that I've thought about with soup and salad, you know, because I was from Southern California. So, you know, you're always eating burgers and burritos all the time in Southern California. And if I'm eating a burger or a burrito, it's like 60 seconds, it's gone, you know. But when I have soup or salad, usually soup is kind of hot and it makes me go slow. I've got to like take a scoop and blow on it, cool it down. Okay, it's going to take me like 10 minutes to eat this soup. And salad, it just takes forever to chew salad. Like it's just a slow food, you know? And I've thought to myself, I wonder if this exact thing, what you're saying, I wonder if soup and salad makes me feel better afterwards because it's just healthier than, you know, burgers and burritos, or if it's just because I'm eating it slower and I'm being a little bit more specific with it. So now what I have to do is try some other foods that I would normally eat fast, and I've got to purposely try to eat them slow and see if I feel better after eating those. That's the experiment I've got to do now.
Yeah, great one. And there's another element to that, and that is that food is one of the great pleasures of life. Ideally, we cook a lot of our own food, and ideally we eat it with people we love as often as possible. And this is another aspect of what I love about this, and that is that ideally we're eating slowly and mindfully, not just for ourselves, but with the people that we love, our family, our significant other, whoever we're eating with, and able to pay attention. Ideally, you know, electronics are away and we're either completely with our food or with our food and the people that we're with, which is becoming more and more of a lost art in our society. We tend to not even be paying attention, not only to our food, we tend to have an electronic device in this hand and a fork in the other hand. If we're even sitting at a table, how about electronics in this hand, our knee controlling the driver's wheel of the car and the burger in the other hand, right?
Oh man, that's so real. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah.
And so if we could get rid of that completely, right? So little things like try to never eat while you drive, try to almost
Right.
go in, someone says, let's do the drive through, say, no, how about if we just go in? How about if
Mm-hmm.
let's go in, let's
Mm-hmm.
just sit. Let's just sit and slow down. Let's chat. Let's
Mm-hmm.
be with each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is kind of a lost art in our society that if we bring this back, it's not just about, this brings us to the why. Why are we trying to stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
What for?
Yeah.
Right? For our life, for joy, for our relationships, and all
Mm-hmm.
these things interconnect.
Yeah, so true. I would be interested if there's a study, and maybe you know if this has happened or not, if there's a study that shows the different digestive properties of people who eat in a community with other people at the table versus people who eat alone. I'm sure that study exists out there somewhere. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
So that type of research is being done in the blue zones of the world.
Oh,
So,
right.
well, it hasn't been done specifically. Well, I can't say that. I'm not aware of any study that's as specific as what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know, and I've had 3 experts about the blue zones of the world where people tend to live to be more healthy and for longer than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Loma Linda, California,
Right.
Okinawa, Japan,
Mm-hmm.
a small community in Greece, and then another area of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And in all those cases, people ate slowly, mindfully, and with their family, often multi-generational. You often got grandma and grandpa at the table, and the parents and little ones.
Wow.
And they're sharing their wisdom, and they're chatting, and they're laughing, and they're having a good time, and they're eating the food that was grown close to them.
Yeah.
Or maybe they grew it themselves or got it from a local market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a combination of community with local food. And so that's not quite as specific as what you said. I understand.
Yeah.
But they do think that the reason why those people live longer is it's not just about food. Everyone says, oh, it's because they eat well and they do a lot of light exercise. Yeah, they do. But it's also got to do with the strong community and family that they have.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
All right. So that's number 2. So eat slowly. Number 3 here.
Number 3 is similar. I talked about when we eat. So that's intermittent fasting. So we eat within a window. So for women, that should not be less than 10 hours. So let's say that she starts eating has breakfast at 9 in the morning, right? So now we go 10 hours later, and by 7 p.m., she should stop eating.
Interesting.
For men, our hormonal cycle is very different. Women are on a 28 to 31 day hormonal cycle. Men are on a very consistent 24-hour repeating hormonal cycle.
Yeah.
There's similarities, of course, HGH, estrogen, and testosterone, although they're at different balances. Melatonin at night, all those things are the same between men and women. But of course, we have other significant differences. So a guy can get away with, some guys right now are doing really well on 1 meal a day.
Yeah.
It's quite a common thing. Other guys are doing really well on eating lunch at about noon and having dinner at about 6.
Yeah.
And that's all they do.
That works really well for me. I do that a lot.
Interesting. And that works pretty well for me too. Although my window's a little wide. I found that if I have breakfast at about 10 and try not to eat anything after 6, I feel great. It just really works for me. Okay. If I go longer than 10, I start to get really hungry and I want to listen to those cues. And so not always, often on a Saturday or Sunday for some reason, I often just naturally not eat anything till 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
That's
sometimes both Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
Are you strict about not working on the weekends? Or do you still work over the weekends?
I do live differently on the weekends. Both Saturday and Sunday are more casual for me.
Yeah.
And I tend to not work out as hard either. Monday through Friday, I tend to have fairly hard workouts.
Okay.
And I think that's Saturday, I usually do a long, easy cardio exercise, and Sunday mornings I do yoga.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think the activity matters.
Yeah, I think that it has to do with stress levels, just my own personal idea. But yeah, I think on weekends, if your stress levels are lower, less need for, energy, food, et cetera. But yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So intermittent fasting, there's a lot of information out there, so I won't spend much time on it. Other than to say I highly recommend it. I mean, I call it the virtuous cycle of a 24-hour period of, let's just quickly do this. If you stop eating at 6 o'clock at night, for example,
Mm-hmm.
your body's digesting food. And as it digests food and gets done with digestion, it starts to raise melatonin. And you start to naturally relax. The sun has gone down, your circadian rhythm, if it's working properly, the food gets digested, the melatonin is high, you lie down, you have a good night's sleep. While you're sleeping, the body's done digesting food, so it gets to work on cleansing. So it starts destroying viruses, bacteria, pathogens, and carcinogens. Now, it's pretty important right now in this day and age, because we know that with the coronavirus, for example, there is a mathematical component. I don't know if you've heard this, but you need a certain amount of the virus in your body to overcome your immune system.
Interesting.
So if someone coughs near you and say you ingest 60 coronavirus viruses, your immune system can pretty easily fight that if you have a decent immune system.
Interesting.
But let's say that you're with someone for 4 or 5 hours and you take in 1,000 of the virus. That can overpower your system and spread so that your body's fighting it, but it wins, takes over, you got coronavirus.
Wow.
So to know that at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, you might have been exposed to a virus, but you're doing your body the huge favor of not eating so that it can digest the food, then all night long be killing the viruses, bacteria, carcinogens, pathogens. That's a very comforting thing to know, right? And if you do the rest of the things I'm talking about, you're just building up your body's ability to fight more and more of those negative critters that we don't want in our system.
Yeah.
Meantime, your estrogen and testosterone rises, HGH rises, and blood sugar is low. That's an ideal state in the morning for exercise, meditation, for doing your most important work. Your alpha waves are going in your brain. So to sit down and do a little time planning or writing or anything creative, then get your exercise done. And your body stays in that wonderful hormonal state until you eat that first meal. And all of a sudden, you're taking in more pathogens and carcinogens in the very food you're eating, even if it's super healthy. Right? But we need that energy, of course. We need the phytonutrients. We need the vitamins, we need the minerals. So we eat during that window, and then we go back into the cycle again at night. So it's a very powerful concept.
That's really interesting to think about all that. Now, I know just a question for you. I know I'm like crunching in 4 points here at kind of the end. We were going to end here in maybe like 10 minutes. So can we get it all those 4 points in there, or do we need a little more time?
Let's do it because we covered number 5, which is on supplements.
Oh, we already
5
covered
is all
that
about
one?
supplements.
Okay.
So that's what we covered at the beginning.
Okay,
the
good.
next one, now we're getting into the food. We want to eat according to what we call the hand rules. We need to get healthy carbs, fats, proteins, and 5 to 9 servings of vegetables a day. So work on 5 to 9 servings of vegetables. That's magic. I mean, that's going to give you so much nutrition. It's going to give you fiber. It's going to give you energy. You're going to feel terrific if you get those 5 to 9 servings.
Yeah.
And then with every meal, if you look at your hand, of course, is proportional to the size of person that you are. Your palm is about the size of protein that you need with each meal.
Oh, that's an interesting measurement. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how big you are. You look like kind of a bigger guy. That might be 3 eggs, maybe. Could you imagine, your palm being like 3 eggs, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Or imagine that size of piece of meat.
Yeah. I can see that.
That would be a good, healthy protein.
Yeah.
Now, if you close your fist, that's the size of carb. So you don't have 3 or 4 potatoes, you have 1.
Okay. Right.
Right? Healthy fat about the size of your thumb. This one's a little trickier because healthy fat is often included in our food. It's often like if you have the eggs I mentioned earlier, it already has healthy fat. If you have meat, it already has the fat. If you have the soup and salad you mentioned, why not put some olive oil about the size of your thumb on there, or some avocado oil with garlic, or make your own dressing out of a healthy oil.
Yeah.
And you'll cover that oil aspect of it. And then if you open up your hand, that's about the size of, you could fill your hand with peas or chopped carrots or any vegetable. Okay. That's, a handful of carrots, of vegetables.
Okay. You mean vegetables like non-leafy vegetables or any?
No. That would be in the carb. So the carb would be the calorie dense, like a sweet potato, Um, oh boy, I would consider beans, um, or lentils. So ones with carbs. So it's a little bit of a misnomer because usually our carb is a vegetable as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the 5 to 9 servings of vegetables will be all the green leafy vegetables,
Okay.
spinach, kale, for fruit, berries, apples, anything really, whatever you like. Try to eat the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah.
If people haven't heard that before, different colors have different phytonutrients. So try to eat as many different colors of fruits and vegetables every day, getting your energy from the high density carbs, bread. If you struggle with bread, some people don't realize that if you just toast bread, it breaks down the gluten.
Oh,
Some
that's good
people
to
are
know.
gluten. Yeah. If you're gluten intolerant, if you're just slightly gluten intolerant, toasting the bread might do the trick for you.
Oh, that's good to know. Interesting.
Yeah. And so moving quickly, 2 left, move your body every day.
Amen.
Every day, 7 days a week, not 3 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I mentioned a couple to you already of what I do, and try to mix it up. Mix up cardio with strength, do yoga, do core, right? Do hard days and light days, long days and easy days. And walking counts for those people that are really serious. And if they don't build up a sweat, they don't feel like they did anything. Yeah, that's not the case. Half an hour of walking, back to the social element of this, with your kids, with your spouse. Walking is a wonderful form of exercise. Low impact, you're outside, you get your vitamin D. So everything counts, and try to do all 7 days so that you're overcoming the modern lifestyle that involves lots of sitting, lots of slouching over computers, lots of neck leaning forward, shoulders hunched forward. We need to overcome all of that and do things that strengthen our back muscles and strengthen our hips and strengthen all of our different muscles, give us mobility, flexibility, strength, endurance, speed. There's multiple elements of health. And in 7 days, you can hit every one of them.
That is so right. I'm preaching that sermon to people all the time. So amen to that, brother. I love it.
And we only got 1 left.
All right.
Sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. Sleep is where all of this comes together. If you've exercised, ate right, lived in that circadian rhythm where the melatonin has risen, now while you're sleeping, your joints are repairing, you're taking all that food, you're cleansing, like I mentioned, you're reinvigorating yourself, you're getting ready to wake up for a wonderful new day where you can do it all again and feel really good about it. But if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to have sugar cravings. There's a lot of research on sleep. People don't realize how many areas of our life it impacts, either positively or negatively. If you don't get a good night's sleep, it affects your diet because you're going to crave sugar more. It affects your hormones because they're not going to work in the 24-hour cycle that we need with the melatonin and with the testosterone and the estrogen and the HGH, et cetera. And so 7 to 9 hours of sleep, we're in a society where we think it's cool to burn the candle at both ends and go crazy, really work hard and be a go-getter. But the fact is, we're more likely to be successful if our body and our mind functions at its very best in the time that we do work. We don't want to rob that from time we should be sleeping.
I want to ask a quick question from your perspective, being a supplement guy, talking about sleep. And then I'd love if you just recapped, just kind of went down that list to remind us your 7 things there. But, a lot of people are taking sleeping pills, or they do an alcohol nightcap, or there's different, essential oils or things like that. Do you have anything that you prefer in terms of like a sleeping supplement or things like that in a natural way to help people sleep? What are your thoughts on that?
If people do the 7 things I just said, with few exceptions, their need for all those things will go away. And the only one I'd recommend is melatonin.
Okay.
I have this is kind of funny. I have a melatonin inhaler.
Oh, right? Interesting. Never heard of that.
I don't sell them, but you can find it if you Google melatonin inhaler.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if I feel like, because let's face it, I don't live these things perfectly. I do my best.
Sure.
This is how I try to live. But yeah, I have parties. I have nights I stay up late.
Sure.
We have married kids who'll come over to our home and not go home until late at night. And so I don't get my 7 to 9 hours. Life happens.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you live this 5 days out of 7. But then but you go to bed one night, your mind is racing, and you just know it's going to be one of those nights.
Yeah.
You inhale melatonin, 20 seconds later, you start to feel tired.
No way. I'm going to have to try that.
It's pretty slick.
Wow.
It's pretty
cool.
slick. Huh. It's weird the first time you do it, especially if you don't normally inhale anything. Like I don't. And so my lungs were kind of bugged the first couple times. I thought, I'm not going to like this. But I carried on with it, and I don't use it very often. So the answer to your question is, I recommend doing very, very little other than adjusting your whole circadian rhythm so that you're living in harmony with how nature intends our bodies to live, right? Eating in the eating window, letting the melatonin naturally rise, all those things. And so ideally, you want to wean yourself of all those things. For a lot of people, it's just that they're doing the wrong things after dinner. And they're creating the problem for themselves by not winding down. I'll tell you, here's another thought for you. This is the thing I'm teaching. I've got a group right now going through a 90-day transformation program based on these principles.
Okay.
And I'm challenging them that their eating window is also their social media and news window. No social media or news before or after the eating window.
Interesting.
Because we're just adding stress. Like, why stress ourselves out first thing in the morning with what's going on in the world, right? When that's our very best time for ourselves to work on ourselves and our fitness and our, I'm a meditator, and I do my meditation in the mornings. And I tell you what, I learned a long time ago. If I go look at social media, next thing you know, I can be looking at the news and I can be looking at all this negativity. And next thing you know, that's what's in my head. And then I sit to meditate and I'm bugged. And so I learned that I do want to know what's going on in the world. I don't have a problem with that. And I have found personally that in the afternoon, for me to go check social media, for some reason, it doesn't get under my skin, or I don't know, the rabbit hole of news doesn't bother me as much. So that's what I do personally. And I encourage other people to do it. And then especially at night again, because your question I've taken a long time to answer is about going to sleep. But if, again, you are spending that time with your family, with your loved one, social things, avoiding electronics, avoiding things that would be negative, that you'll find that your sleep will be improved.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big, salt rock lamp / candle light. I'm very particular about my nighttime. After the sun goes down, change all the lights in the room. And what comes into my eye, these are like my blue light blockers, even though it's
these are as well
late morning.
They're blue blockers.
Yeah, I just love, it makes me look smarter too. But I just love wearing my blue light blockers and getting in the habit of it. Since I bought these and since I changed my light situation, I sleep way, way better. So, hey, I know you got a jet right here. Would you just run us through those points again, and we'll wrap it up here.
I got them written down so I don't forget any.
Okay,
do not
perfect.
Drink calories.
Right.
Eat slowly and mindfully. Intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Eat healthy macros according to the hand rules: protein, carbs, fats.
That's right. That was super clever.
Vegetables.
Yeah, I love
the
that.
Hand. Observe a simple supplement strategy.
Okay.
Move your body every day, and get 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hey, Dave, thanks so much for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. Those are great, great principles. And remember, again, people, we're going to have a link down below. Check out, Dave's website and some of his products. I think he's got the Formula 7 little PDF or like an ebook that you can get off the website. And we're going to have something for that turmeric link on there too. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. This has been a great interview.
This has been great. Great. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for listening to this episode with Dave Sherwin. If you want to get involved with this podcast, there's 2 ways for you to do that. The first is to go to my website, brandoncope.com, where you can message me, ask me questions, leave comments. The second is if you want to leave a review and a rating wherever you listen to this podcast, on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else. The bigger the show gets and the better reviews I have on it, the easier it is for me to bring in more content, more guests to come onto the show. I would love it if you could support that way. Thanks so much for listening.